Hi everyone, what's up? This is Ryan Cassata and I'm here with Alana Cole and we're going to make a video about being pansexual.
Hey guys!
How would you define pansexuality?
So the Google definition for pansexual is not limited in sexual choice with regard to biological sex, gender, or gender identity. And I agree with this. Besides the words choice and limited, I think that it's not that other people limit themselves. I think it's more of just you're kind of blinded by gender and gender identity. You kind of don't see that as a reason to find a potential mate in them. I personally find all people attractive. It just depends on who they are as a person, and I think that's what makes someone attractive or not, is basically what kind of person they are.
What's the most common misconception about being pansexual?
I think the biggest misconception about being pansexual is that you actually have to use the term pansexual. I don't use the term very often. I use the word pansexual only when I feel it's necessary to use it. When someone asks me, oh, like, who do you, like what's your sexual identity? I normally just say I like people and not a gender. So that's what I normally say, and I think that's the biggest misconception. If you are pansexual, that you have to say pansexual, you have to use that term. You really don't. You can not use it at all if you want to and still be pansexual.
What question do you get asked most as a pansexual person, and why do you think that is?
The question I get asked the most is, what gender do I prefer? And I think I get asked this because I am dating girls right now, and there was a period of time where I only dated guys, and I think that's like kind of a question that I get asked just because people are confused by that. They're wondering why just a certain gender at a certain time, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that our sexuality, just like our gender, I think is fluid, and I think that it can change, and that's why I'm pansexual, because I don't want to say that I specifically like a certain gender if it is constantly changing. So I think that just means that I'm attracted to people.
What would you say is the difference of being pansexual and being bisexual?
Bi means two, so that means two genders. You're attracted sexually to two genders, and that could be boy or girl, or it could be boy and a gender, or girl and a gender, or all these different genders, and you're attracted to two of them, which is not the case for me. I think that's really the big difference, is if you're bisexual, you're attracted to two different genders, and if you're pansexual, it has nothing to do with their gender.
A viewer asks, I tend to identify as bisexual, pansexual, or queer, but in public I almost always refer to myself as bi. Do you have any advice on how to start re-identifying in public?
If you're looking to re-identify yourself, I guess, I would just be honest. If someone asks you what your sexuality is, I would just say, hey, I said I was bisexual before, but I realized that I'm pansexual, and explain to them what that means, because a lot of people don't know what it means. 6, explaining how you feel about anything is always really difficult, so especially when it comes to your own sexuality, sometimes it's like, how do I explain these feelings? If I'm explaining to someone and they don't understand what pansexual is, I say I like people for who they are, their personalities, and not based on their gender or their genitalia, which can be two different things, and that's a whole nother discussion.
What is your favorite, most ridiculous question that you have gotten from a person when you tell them you're pansexual?
I don't get a whole lot of ridiculous questions in my daily life, but sometimes online I get, which gender do I prefer? And I don't think it's a ridiculous question. I totally understand it, and I know where you're coming from when you ask me that, but I think it is a question that isn't really necessary. It's not about someone's gender that makes you attracted to someone, at least for pansexuals. It's who they are, and I think that when you say, what do you prefer, it's kind of like that doesn't make any sense. And when you ask that kind of question, it's kind of disregarding the fact that they're pansexual. They don't have a preference.
Is there anything else that you think the world should know about pansexuality?
Something that I would like you guys to take away from this doesn't actually have to do with being pansexual. It has to do with being any sexuality, you don't have to put a label to yourself. You don't have to tell people what sexuality you have. And I think that's the biggest, most important thing to understand, is that you don't have to have any labels. You don't have to. A lot of people ask, like, how do you know you're pansexual? Or I think I'm pansexual, but I don't know, and all these things. You don't have to know right away. You don't ever have to know. All you have to know is follow your heart. If you love a person, love them, and who cares what their gender is, and just love and be happy, and don't worry about all these weird labels that you have to define yourself with. Thanks for having me on your channel, Ryan.
Thank you so much for joining me, Alana. I hope people enjoy this video. Peace.